I am Genesys, #1 enjoyer. And my feed is filled with hatred. How could this happen?
Konami announced a brand new way to play the TCG. Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis is a brand new format with a very, very big headline.
Who edited this for
no
you?
banned cards. Instead of having cards banned, you're allowed to play any card that's ever been printed in Yu-Gi-Oh! With the exception of Links and Pendulums, except for the fact that
You can tell that he recorded it differently. Like, you can see, like, the tone in his voice has changed there. Because he realized that people would, well, actually, within 7 seconds of... Actually, you can't play Pendant Links.
they have a very long list of cards with a point cost associated to them. And effectively, you're allowed to
you know,
build a
just
deck
like the most
with a total
important,
point cost
like simple
of
basis of
100
the
points
thing
or
that people
less.
should
Meaning
know.
that if you choose to build a deck with a card that costs 100 points, none of the other cards that are featured on the points list are allowed to be played in your deck.
I believe they
Overall
deleted the
idea
Mystic
of this
Mine
format
already.
is that it brings the power level of Yu-Gi-Oh! Down, and it brings the complexity level of Yu-Gi-Oh! Also down by removing pendulums and link monsters, and forcing people to play with cards
I
that
like
are
the,
usually going to
the
be
Pikachu
less
sticker.
powerful than the typical suite of 3 of hand traps and all sorts of broken cards that you can just be playing in your modern standard format Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. Now, I know that by the title of this video, you might think that I hate this concept. I hate the idea. I fucking hate Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis. But that's not the case. I actually really like the concept of having to deck build with a point system in mind, because it lends itself to forcing the player to make very important concessions in terms of deck building, and ultimately forcing people to play with very unique deck lists and interesting deck lists. And overall, I think it's just a fantastic deck building challenge. I'm a big fan of deck building challenges. I think that anytime you're building with a restriction, it forces you to create something cool and unique and different, and I love that about the concept of Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis. Now, actually, what I dislike about Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis is the implementation of one very specific thing. So we're going to get into it. Before that, I just got to give you a little bit of context. Basically, they announced Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis a couple of days ago, and then just yesterday, they already...
This is peak YouTubing, by the way. You're waiting for the main point. He's gonna say it, and then he yaps into a different direction. Genuinely, this is how you maximize that early watch time to keep people locked in. It's crazy.
They did some
I gotta learn how to do this better
on a lot of the cards. Now, I know that a lot of people are happy about this, and they're like, oh my god, they're listening to community feedback, and they're responding very quickly, and they're actually communicating with us through blog posts, which is like unheard for Konami, and I think that's really good. However, I think that they jumped the gun just a little too quickly. I really don't think that 2 days worth of theory crafting really is enough to know whether or not certain cards were too broken, certain cards cost too little, certain cards cost too much. I think with
say that again?
Know whether little too quickly. I really don't think that 2 days worth of theory crafting really...
Where did you get this 2 days from? Who says they were testing this for 2 days?
Is enough to know whether or not certain cards were too broken, certain cards cost too little, certain cards cost too much.
Are you referring to the update? Is that what you... Is this how quick you got this out?
I think with YCS Anaheim around the corner, it's literally 2 weekends away. I think that that would have been enough time to give people to try to discover what all decks would be interesting to play in the format, and then taking it to the YCS Anaheim side event, where they're going to be running them all day on Saturday and on Sunday to win a freaking...
Yeah, but the thing is, like, crafting. They literally said that it was kind of like just a misinput of the cards, because they specifically were banning things up to dude format, and had just like skipped some stuff basically, right? Like they said something about a backlog. I don't know what the excuse sounds like stupid to me. It didn't really make any sense, but it's not like it was based off of like testing and stuff. It's like they had already been testing this stuff already.
Dark and
I don't know why they just didn't implement it.
And then I think with the results of that, you can basically take a little bit more of an educated guess based on, you know, statistics and actually what was played, as opposed to just take a wild guess from what people have been brewing in Discords for the last 2 daes. So me personally, I did buy some cards.
I think you've really missed the point. I don't think that's what that update was about. I don't think it was a reaction to 2 days of theory crafting. I'm pretty sure it was a reaction to something that it's in the blog. I don't know. They said it was a backlog, basically. And for the Mystic Mine stuff, well, to be fair, they did specifically say in their initial blog post, if you play an FTK, you will die. Okay? Like, they said that. So even though they shot Mystic Mine in the head, like, after 48 hours, that is because they said, if you play an FTK, we'll kill it.
Had this really cool idea for a deck, and unfortunately, the deck that I wanted to build is no longer viable due to these new changes.
Number 3 will shock you.
I don't think this is one of those, I invested into these cards, and I should have been allowed to get a return on my investment. That's not how I feel about it at all. Anyone who knows me knows that whenever I buy a card, I don't view it as an asset or as a stock or anything like that. However, I think that when you buy a card because you were presented with a format, you built a deck for it, bought the cards in order to be able to play it with your friends or at your locals, because a lot of locals are firing this event, I really think that you should be allowed to get value out of that card and get playtime out of that card is what I mean in terms of value. So the fact that they...
Honestly, if Mystic Mine players went out and ordered a whole bunch of mines and Demise of the Lands and stuff, and now got fucked over 2 days later, that's like the one community of player that I actually don't care about bad things happening to them. Sorry, mine players.
Initially released this format, and then 2 days later, after probably a lot of people purchased cards because they were excited to give this format a try,
for a month
already killed off a lot of decks. That
Kevin, can you think of anything worse as advertising and community perception for their brand new game and format than, hey guys, how's that Genesys format doing? What's the meta? Oh, Mystic Mindburn is like tier 1. No, I think they did good here.
a bunch of people were very excited to play, probably bought some cards to play, and now won't be able to use those cards for. So that's my first complaint. However, we are going to finally get into the larger complaint, and this is the meat and potatoes of the video.
All right, here we go.
The main reason
we're almost 5 minutes in. We're getting to the main point.
I wanted to create this video, and it's because I have one really big complaint about this format that I've been looking online and I haven't seen anyone really talking about it. So I want to basically present this argument to you guys just as food for thought. Now, again, I like the concept of Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis. This is not me being here to complain, being like, they killed the one deck that I theorized and wanted to play. It truly is just me presenting you with an alternative
5-minute
thought
watch
that
time.
you might not have had, just so that more people can maybe think about it and see maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis should be something just ever so slightly different.
Come on.
And the change that I'm suggesting is not a really crazy major one.
Oh.
So, the main complaint that I have about Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis is the headline itself. No banned cards. Now, while I think the concept of no banned cards is A, interesting, and B, also is a headline that, let's face it, really attracts returning players, people that haven't played the game in over...
Okay, his main point is that he doesn't want it to be no ban cards. Okay, let him cook. Let him cook. Put on the apron. Get the spatula. Let me hear it.
For a decade, or even just new players. This idea of, wait, I could play with everything? That's so cool. I think that that's a concept that, in theory, lends itself well to inviting a lot of people to start playing this format. However, on the opposite side, 100-point cost cards are effectively just banned in this format. You look at cards like Utopic Zexal or Rongominiad, and these cards, despite the fact that Rongo doesn't actually cost 100, but a majority of these problematic cards are effectively just banned in this format. While yes, you are allowed to play it in your deck at the cost of effectively not being able to play anything else, the flip side of that is that they associated a high point cost, or a point cost that would get you above the 100-point threshold, in order to make it so that these cards are effectively just not playable anyway. So while this format does in fact not have...
Okay, why is that bad though? Like, there are so many cards that have been made over the last 20 years in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, there are some that just I'm sorry, just shouldn't exist. Right? Why is that a bad thing? They should remove the point system. Guys, let me hear me out. Genesis format, but there isn't a point cap, and pens and links are legal.
Have a ban list with the exception of links and pendulums, but for the remainder of this video, we're just going to go with the assumption of there is no ban list, okay? While this format has no ban list, the reality of it is that there are a lot of cards that are pseudo-banned because they're not able to be played in any meaningful way. You can put them in your deck, but you're not able to use them in any way, shape, or form. So why do I have a problem with these 100-point costs even being allowed in the game at all?
I really like what you struck, because I was literally seconds away from pausing to ask, why is that bad? And here we... Okay. Listen, I don't see any oil on the ceiling and fire everywhere. The kitchen is still functional. Let him cook. All right, I'm waiting for... Why is this bad?
Because every single one of these 100-point cost cards take a bunch of other cards with them and bloat up this point cost list. The major reason that I'm seeing people talking about why links and pendulums were banned is because people are saying that if links and pendulums were allowed, there would be way too many cards that would have to be put on this point list, and reducing how many cards are on this point list actually makes it a lot more...
Okay, I don't think that's the reason. Those people are just wrong. I think they specifically took away links and pens because they want to bring back returning players, and a lot of people quit because links, quote-unquote, ruin the game. Pendulums, quote-unquote, ruin the game. I think that's probably why. That's just a theory. We don't really know, right? I personally think that's why they did it.
For newer and returning...
It's not because, like, there's too many cards on the list. Bro, there's like 200 cards on the list already, right? So I don't think those people are right. They're definitely, like, yapping.
Players to actually pick up this format. However, when you look at the 100 cost cards, those are also a big culprit towards this exact same factor.
500, Jesus.
You look at, once again, Utopic Zexal, every single rank up card ever created in the game has at least 1 point cost associated to it, specifically so that you can't play it with number S0 Utopic Zexal. And that just seems very strange to me. Now,
why do you not like this? Why is this bad? I'm not getting why you think it's bad. Is it just too clunky? Do you just think it's not very neat and tidy, like aesthetically on the ban list? Like why is that like bad? Like, yeah, there's a lot of cards, but you know, just put it in a deck builder and you see the card you want, right?
I know this is going to sound extremely weird, but the big reason why I wanted to make this video, and I know you guys are going to say, Coder, you have a horse in the race. They hit your deck. They hit the thing that you wanted to do. Let me break this down. I got really upset because in the points update that they made, they took Planet Pathfinder, a card that has seen effectively no competitive play damn near ever in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, with the exception of being played
got a few play, but you know, that's not trying to well actually.
In Mystic Mine, and they made it cost 3 points. Now, why did they do this? They did this because Mystic Mine is legal in this format. Mystic Mine being obviously a card that, if it hits the board and sticks, you outright win the game by stalling the game entirely to a halt and burning your opponent for game.
That's not true, Caster. Yeah, there's like a couple of times. It's not the main point. Don't fixate on that.
So, because Mystic Mine is legal, every single field spell searcher has a point cost associated to it. Terraforming, Planet Pathfinder, Metaverse, heck, Demise of the Land. These cards that effectively don't see any play unless they're played in some very specific strategy.
It's so funny because everything you're saying, I'm like on the opposite. I think that's why it's so. It's like, yeah, you can play this card, but the cost is you can't play these other cards. Like, I love that. That's the whole point. I don't know. Like, that's why I really like it personally.
Strategies that can utilize them in interesting ways, with the exception of Mystic Mine, which uses it for evil, essentially. I remember the days of the TCG banning every single tuner instead of just banning Crystron Halka-Fibrax, and I remember when they would hit every single FTK enabler instead of just banning OG Firewall Dragon. This is not something that we want to be repeating, yet this is what we're seeing here.
Okay, so basically the idea is that he's taking an issue with the fact that they won't just hit the source, that are dealing with the symptoms and the band-aids around it that made those cards problematic, like, for example, giving every single rank-up card a single point cost. Now, while that is a fair point, I disagree because I think the point that those cards have is negligible, right? If you want to play a deck that has a rank up, like I was trying to build Phantom Knight earlier, and in order to play both of the Phantom Knight rank ups is 2 points, right? I don't think that's bad. That's fine, right? Because I get to play my engine card for basically nothing. And it also prevents something terrible from happening in the format, which is S0 Turbo. I think that's good. I think that's a good thing. The only issue it could ever theoretically have is if you have engine requirements in your deck that just teeter over 100 points. Let me give you a perfect example. I was playing Labyrinth yesterday. That deck, at all of its engine requirements, is 99 points. 33 welcome, 33 big welcome, 33 lady. That is 99 points exactly. If theoretically, Labyrinth, the field spell, was like 2 points, I wouldn't be able to play that, right? So if ever there was a situation where your engine card would take you just like single-digit points over the threshold because of another card, but not because of your deck, but because of a tertiary deck like Mystic Mine, then that would be a problem. But I don't think I've seen that yet, because I don't think me playing Phantom Knight is going to be such a detriment that the fact that I have to spend 2 points to play the engine cards is relevant. I mean, I would have to sit down and think about it and build it and put in enough staples to the point where I'll be like, okay, am I actually at 100 now or 99? So yeah, that's kind of like my view on it.
Now, Coder, why is Planet Pathfinder something that's even on your radar? Why do you even care? I was basically playing a K9 Archmage deck. Now, I know that they hit Jokal, and I think that's a very reasonable hit to make.
I'm not trying to get all into the specifics here, but Pathfinder is a pretty relevant card, right? It's not like completely... You seem to be acting like it's ass. It's not. It is a fairly decent card. It was played in Numeron OTK, which was a real deck temporarily. It was played in Kashtira. Like, that card has seen uses.
And I think the deck would still...
And any deck that plays a, like, very important field spell but doesn't need its normal summon would probably find a space for Pathfinder.
Be extremely playable despite that point cost. However, one thing that is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back is the point cost associated to Planet Pathfinder. In my opinion, being able to
Why does he hate Pathfinder so much?
Take 2 5s on the board to go into a River Stormer to get Planet Pathfinder in order to search out a field spell that gets you to Engine is, in my opinion, a very creative thing that you can do deck building wise. Having this ability of combining level 5s from one archetype in order to go into another archetype's rank 5 monster to search a generic card that gets you to the field spell that gets you to your deck's Engine is a very, very cool thing that you should be allowed to do, especially
You can do that.
a low-powered format like this. Being able to have this one consistent.
It's just that you have to pay a cost for playing such a powerful card, which is Pathfinder, a generic field searcher.
Consistency card that bridges 2 unique engines together is really cool in my opinion. So while I understand the appeal of wanting to have these 100 cost cards that you basically can build around one really OP boss monster or some broken degenerate card like Mystic Mine, my big issue is that this gimmick of wanting to have every single card legal comes at the cost of bloating the list of cards with a point cost associated to them, while also associating a point cost to cards that, let's face it, shouldn't have one in the first place. A lot of these rank up cards are totally fine and should be allowed to be played for free. Planet Pathfinder
Is there really a big difference between 0 and 1? Like, what deck is reaching such a critical threshold where the cost of rank up magic being 1 is stopping the deck from being playable? There just isn't. Like, what deck? Like, tell me. There is? Which deck plays a rank up that this matters? If you use 33s? If that ever happens, I should hope that they would change it. But I'm not really understanding or seeing which deck would actually suffer from that. Utopia kind of like dislikes Rums being priced. Is there even a single Utopia card on the list other than S0? All your Rhodas are like 33 and E-Telly is 40. This comes at another different conversation. Like, I was playing Punk earlier today, and I just didn't play Teleport. Like, 80 for 2 Teleport is just ridiculous, you know? Hera's 33. That's a problem. I agree. They should fix that. I think the issue seems to be with, if they want to make... So, here's the thing, right? And remember, this is iterative. I don't think the conceptual root of the problem is the fact that they are allowing you to play all banned cards. I think they just need to tune the numbers in a way where you never end up in a situation where your archetype is exactly 99 or 100, but then a couple of, like, other mandatory pieces are 1 point because of some other deck. You see what I'm saying? Like, let's say theoretically, rollback was 2, and I'm playing Labyrinth, and if I want to play all my Labyrinth cards, it takes me to 99. Now I can't play rollback because all the lab cards are at 99. Like, do you know what I mean? Because of rollback being abused in, like, some other, like, silly combo deck or something, right? So all they need to do, realistically, to fix that is just tune the numbers a little bit. Like, bring Para down to 30, for example. Now you can play all the rank ups at a fairly irrelevant cost. Do you know what I mean? Why is it Mystic Mine, Rongo, and S1 at 101? Like, make the cards super cluttery? I mean, that might actually be a solution. Is, like, you don't actually need to hit all of the rank up cards. If they just made all of these cards 101, then you would theoretically, like, just ban them. You would ban them, basically. That's just banning them. They wouldn't be playable. But I guess they do really want to fixate on the fact that, hey, you can play every single card if you want. Which I guess goes back to Kevin's point of, well, if you just made a ban list for this, you wouldn't have this issue. So I can understand where he's coming from.
It's also a card that should totally
it's not
be
like
allowed
the
to
dumbest
be played
take
for
ever.
free.
It's
I
just,
don't think that any
I
of
just
these
don't think
cards
it's
should
that
have a
big of
point
an
cost
issue.
associated to them. So like I said in the beginning of the video, I really do like the concept of having a point cost associated to cards, but I think that the implementation of this kind of falls flat for me. And the reason why I say this is because I like the point cost distribution because it offered a different way to implement a ban list into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. A lot of times you'll hear people talking about, what if we had a Duel Links ban list where if a card is at 2, you can play 2 of it or 1 of it and another card that's at 2 or something like that, which was a ban list idea that never would really work for the TCG.
This is very similar, by the way. I was thinking about this the other day. The Duel Links ban list and the Genesys ban list kind of function in similar ways. Like, if you put enough hand traps at a certain number, for example, you kind of end up in that sort of similar situation. It's different, but, you know, this one is also whatever.
But then
I think that Genesys is just so much more flexible. Whereas the Duel Links one definitely is basically Konami telling you what you can and can't play together. Whereas Genesys feels like it's a lot more open-ended and harder to solve and really pinpoint exactly where you can or can't play things.
A lot of people had this idea of, what if a card was
Some
too
interactions
broken
are very
in tandem
obvious,
with this
right?
one
Like the
other
S0
card?
one.
What if you just made it so that you can't play both cards together? Realistically, in my opinion, that is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis was attempting to
Another
create.
article
It was
just
attempting to
dropped?
create
Are you
a list
kidding?
where you are able to make concessions in terms of like generic good cards that you could play.
Bro, what are they doing in the office, man? They're just typing. Like, this is like the 7th article in 2 days. All right, we'll read that in a second.
Favor of being able to play some of these 2-card combos that are very powerful together and sometimes a little too powerful. The way I look at it in my head is that something like Fire Formation Tenki, a card that's really good for searching out Beast Warrior monsters. In my opinion, I think that Ancient Warriors is a deck that is probably weak enough that allowing them to play Tenki is probably extremely reasonable, as opposed to the Zodiac deck, which is a lot more powerful. That deck already has Zodiac Barrage to have consistency, so why not associate a point cost to the Fire Formation Tenki and the Zodiac Barrage to make it so that the Zodiac player has to decide, well, Barrage is the engine card, I'm going to choose to pick Barrage.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Hot take, open-ended engine cards just shouldn't really be a thing in the first place. Things like Tenki, I'm sure that there's definitely Bonfire. I don't think those cards should just be like at 3 and just every random, like throw a dart at a board and just pick a random type and it just gets a rota, you know?
And instead of playing Tenki, I'm going to take these points that I would attribute towards an additional consistency card and instead put them towards, you know, some more generic powerful cards like a Joel and Lockbird or some Ash Blossoms or something like that. I think that the idea of the point cost was absolutely a fantastic idea to make it so that different 2-card combos or 3-card combos that were too powerful together can be given an associated point cost that makes it so that you're not really able to play all of them. However, if one of those cards is fair to play in one deck or one of those cards is fair to play in another deck, those decks are able to reasonably play these cards without making too much of a concession in their deck building. So Coder, after all this rambling, what exactly is your solution? We understand that the complaint is that I
guess like his solution would just be put the cards at 101, right? Or just straight up just Hall of Fame them, right? Like Rongo, Mine, like they just shouldn't exist. They just cards that just shouldn't exist.
Like the 100 cost cards because it makes it so that a bunch of other cards that are interesting to deck build with are given some sort of arbitrary point association. Rank ups costing 1, Planet Pathfinder costing 3 for some reason instead of 1. They could have just made it cost 1, but for some reason it costs 3. And it feels like it's kind of all willy-nilly. My suggestion is the following. I think that you can keep this concept of there...
Let him cook. Here we go. Dangerous territory now. Kevin's cooking. Hold up.
Is no ban list. There are no banned cards, while also removing some cards from being able to play it in the most popular or standard format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis. I think that a lot of these 100-point...
I didn't understand that.
Is the following. I think that you can keep this concept of there is no ban list, there are no banned cards, while also removing some cards from being able to play it in the most popular or standard format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis.
Wait, but okay, how?
I think that a lot of these 100-point cost cards that are deemed to be so powerful that you should only be allowed to play one of them in your deck without combining it with any of these, like, 500 other cards that are on the list should actually be bumped up by 1 point. I think that...
Oh, okay, well, right, yeah, exactly.
All of these 100 cost cards that are really broken, like Mystic Mind, like VFD, they should all cost 101 points. Now, why is this my suggestion?
Yeah, there you go. That is a way to look at it. I think that they could do something like... I guess we sort of went over all of the points here. They talking about how, like, well, all they realistically need to take away cards by putting them at 101, or you keep it as it is right now at 100, where you put all the other relevant pieces to those cards at 1, like Demise the Land or the rank ups, etc. You just have to make sure that you curate them in a way that it doesn't have a knock-on effect and actually hurts the decks that they're for. Like, Phantom Knight should never be in a position where it's struggling to play the rank up because of S0, even though that's a card that cannot play. Utopia, like actual Utopia, should never be in a situation where it can't play Utopia as a deck, an archetype, because of S0, etc., etc. So I think you can make both work. The easier thing is, he's probably right. They just, should just 101 some cards.